Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Mr. Cow Animated Theater. My name is Mr. Cow, and this is a YouTube channel where I make animations, and also reviews like this one on TV shows like Doctor Who. I also do reviews on things like Star Trek Next Generation, and probably eventually other Star Trek shows. So today I'm talking about the Doctor Who episode, The Time of Angels. But before I get started, I just want to say, please like this video, or dislike this video. Do whichever suits your feelings on this video. But also, if you're a big fan of Doctor Who like I am, there's a good chance you might like some of my animations. So I will link those at the end of this video, as well as you might see a card right up in this area somewhere, linking them here. But with that being said, let's go ahead and jump on in to my review of Time of Angels. This episode, I don't particularly like. I'm sorry. It's not as good as I would like it to be. I know a lot of people really like the Weeping Angels. I also think their concept is absolutely brilliant. The idea of the creature that can't move when you're looking at it has become so iconic, and it's not hard to see why. Angels, the Weeping Angels, they're pretty cool. I get it. Unfortunately, this episode kind of makes them lame. I hope this isn't too hot and spicy of a take. Blink is a great episode. This episode falls short. So, what ranking do I give this episode? 2 stars? 2 stars. 1 star. 1 or 2 stars. Pick your choice. If you like this episode, then for you, it can be 2 stars. If you don't like this episode, for you, it can be 1 star. With that being said, I might be being a little too hard on this episode, because looking at my notes, I have more positive things I want to point out than negative things. Though that will always probably be the case. I'm a pretty positive person. Anyway, with that being said, we'll move on to talking about those positive things. Maybe I should talk about the bad things first one of these days. Anyway, so the first thing I want to say is we get a reference to the Headless Monks. The Headless Monks become sort of a thing later. I don't really like the Headless Monks, but I love a mention of them here. So, yeah, I like when Doctor Who tries to establish bigger world building stuff. So I love the references to the Shadow Proclamation in the David Tennant era, as well as when it shows up here. I love when you hear the Doctor just reference things like Headless Monks that show up later. So that's why I'm giving the Headless Monks I liked this point, even though I'm not a big fan of the Headless Monks themselves. Really, the concept of some monks that don't have heads, it's not terrible, but they're kind of underexplained. They show up in a very busy story, and it kind of just wants you to go with them. But I'm not reviewing that episode. I'm reviewing this episode, so I'm getting way ahead of myself. Okay, so the next thing is I want to give a point to the home box. That is the device in the beginning that has the data from the ship that River Song uses to get the Doctor's attention. I liked how they explained what it did, and they showed her carving into it while we see the Doctor looking at it in the museum. I thought that was all done very well. Cool on that. I liked the book. I like when Doctor Who sort of gets a little mythological. I will say with the caveat, I'm not a big fan of how Doctor Who is currently getting mythological. Right. I like the mythological vibes of like this episode. I do not care for I do not care for superhero vibes with like mythological undertones, I guess would be a way to call it. Anyway, this is how mythology is done good in Doctor Who. Sutekh is not. Sutekh, lame. This, good. So, yeah, I like this book, the idea of this book that talks about the angels. Um, Almost like it's a religious text, but then they say it's written by a madman. And that makes it even cooler because, like, I don't know, a madman, he would have to be sort of mad if he, like, experienced angels enough to write about them in this book. So another up point goes to the Doctor telling Bob
Scared keeps you fast. Anyone in this room who isn't scared is a moron.
that if he wasn't scared, he would be a moron. And again, I keep talking about Matt Smith's Doctor's relationship with fear. And I said in the first episode, and I'll say it again, but if you can learn to be excited by fear, you can have adventure. If you refuse to let yourself be excited by fear or entertained by fear, you cannot experience adventure. So that's my take. I know a lot of people would say, oh, fear is always bad. I don't think so. Then we have the reference to the aliens that like built this place, I guess. They all have two heads, and then they're like, wait, why don't their statues have two heads then? Yeah, cool. I like it. Um, with a small caveat to that one, where it's I wish they would have brought up that they had two heads earlier than they did, because when they did, it seemed like they were telling you they had two heads as soon as you needed to know. But I think it could have been a little more satisfying if they would have brought up the two head thing earlier. So then when you needed to know they had two heads, and then you could start thinking, I wonder why those statues only have one head. Is that sort of a continuity error? Or is it just a joke that they're making about these aliens having two heads? And then the show would reference it and it would be like, see, I told you. So yeah, really, I just would have mentioned two heads a little sooner than they did. But again, I've talked about this almost every episode so far, but Stephen Moffat is a master of foreshadowing. What I'm talking about when I say that is payoff. So he sets things up and then he gives good payoff, and I love it. I like it a lot. So yeah, he sets things up, he pays them off, but they're things that he's subtle enough that if you don't think about it, you don't, and if you do think about it, you do, and you're like, I could figure that out. So yeah, I like the two head things. Last thing I love is the Doctor in the end saying there's one thing you never ever put in a trap, and that is me. Which, that's the very end of this episode. I'm not doing both episodes today because I'm recording this after work, so I had to watch the episode and then record this. So I'm cutting off at one episode because that's all I have time for right now. So you'll have to wait till next week when I'm able to talk about the second part of this two-parter. Otherwise, I would have done them both in one sitting. So, with that being said, those are all the things I did like. I have 3 things I do not like. The first thing, I don't like River Song driving the TARDIS better than the Doctor does. I don't like the joke about him leaving the brakes on. To me, these are some jokes that just take away from some of the magic of the show. And Moffat does these jokes sometimes. Or I shouldn't say Moffat, because I know he doesn't write every episode. And maybe I should start paying more attention to actually the writers of the episodes and less just putting everything on the showrunner. But with that being said, the Peter Capaldi episode with the Vikings, the Doctor has this line where he's like, reverse the polarity of the neutron flow, whatever that means.
Reversing the polarity of the neutron flow. But that means something. It sounds great.
Implying that, like, it's just something he says and he doesn't even know what it means or what he's doing. And I think that sucks. I think that's dumb. In my head, the Doctor knows what he's doing. Leaving the TARDIS brakes on doesn't feel like my Doctor, the Doctor that exists in my head. So that was just something that kind of bothered me. If you can kind of separate jokes from the serious parts of the show more than I can, that's great. There's just something in me that when I hear those jokes, it just makes it hard for me to enjoy, almost hard for me to enjoy the parts of the show that I do enjoy, because those jokes present baggage with the rest of the show. So that I didn't care for. If you like the joke, that's fine. This is my ranking. This is my good things and bad things. Now, the next thing I didn't like, River Song. Don't like her in this episode in particular. I don't like her relationship with the Doctor here. I don't like the way she bosses him around. I feel like Matt Smith and River Song actress, which is not coming to mind, I think they have next to no chemistry together. Yeah, I don't like them. I don't like, yeah, I'm not a fan of River Song. Not in these episodes. I'm a fan of the Doctor and this, like, mysterious woman meeting each other out of order. In fact, at some point, I would like to go through and watch the River Song episodes in order from her timeline. It'd be kind of fun to try and figure that out and watch it that way. And I think it's cool that you could kind of do that, you know. But her character just really rubs me the wrong way, especially in this episode. She's a little better with Tennant, and I think, like, chemistry-wise, she works really well with Capaldi. I feel like they work together more than she works with any other Doctor. But yeah, I just really don't like her in this episode. Maybe later episodes with Matt Smith, she's better. I don't remember that really being the case, but maybe it might be. So when I get to those later episodes, I might sort of make an amendment to what I said here. But so River, not a fan. And then this last one is, I said I liked the book, and I do. I don't like the fact that whenever something has the image of an angel, it becomes an angel. I don't understand what that means. It's very out of nowhere, and this is like Stephen Moffat at his worst, where he's just like making stuff up. And he sort of sits back in his chair and sips his tea, and he says, "Ain't I so clever?" I don't know what Stephen Moffat is actually like, But that's the way his writing presents this moment, is like, he's just looking at me and like, aren't I brilliant? And I'm like, no, Steven, you just said a thing and then expected me to go along with it. That's not brilliant. It's saying a thing. Saying a thing isn't brilliant, Steven. But yeah, no, I don't like it at all. It doesn't even like sort of make sense to me, where it's like if anything takes the image of, so if you ever have like a statue of an angel that becomes actually a weeping angel, is that the implication? So every statue I see I should be scared of because it's the weeping angel, which like, okay, but maybe like I see that weeping angel all the time and it's never moved. Like, I don't know. And not every angel statue is weeping, right? So like what's the deal with that? And then it's like, does it have to be like an image of a stone angel? Or like if I drew a picture of an angel, and maybe I've done this, then does that picture become a weeping angel? In which case, why hasn't that happened when I've drawn an angel before, right? Like, I don't know. I just don't follow the logic of that. It's like, it's almost like he wrote this cool TV scene where like Amy has to try and turn off the TV and like get away before it creates like an actual physical weeping angel. And I'm like, it's a cool scene, but your logic to explain why it's happening just isn't there. And I want to like it, I really do, but you just said a thing and expected me to go along with it without asking any questions, and I can't do that, Steve. So I think I covered that point at length. But that's my review of this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I would love to hear things you liked about this episode, things you didn't like about this episode. I would love it if you liked this video. I would love it if you subscribe to the channel. Again, I'm going through Doctor Who right now, so currently my plan is to finish out this season, and then I might take a short break to do a different show or some movies or something like that. But then I plan to go back to season 1 and go through the entire Eccleston, David Tennant era, and then when I get to this point, either I'll just skip this season because I've already reviewed it, or I might decide that at that point it's been long enough that I can re-review this. Anyway, it doesn't matter, that's in the future, you don't even need to know about that. But yeah, check out my animations, of course. They keep getting better, and I started out not knowing what I was doing at all with animation, and now I know a little bit, and I think I'm starting to tell stories that will really engage with, that people will really enjoy to engage with. So check out those, let me know what you think. Yeah, and just have a nice day. You know, you deserve a nice day. So I wish a nice day upon you, and good night, my friends. Good night.